everyone, this is Kelly from The Truth in Story, and I didn't want to entirely leave out our tarot enthusiasts from this month because obviously this is Lenormand month, so there's a lot of Lenormand going around, Lenormand daily videos, but I still want to obviously keep up some regular tarot videos and such, and I wanted to get this particular walkthrough up because there are a couple people who are thinking about purchasing it and would like to see a walkthrough. So this is, I wrote on here, the Illusori Tarot because, to be honest, it doesn't really tell you that in the box itself. So this is the box as it came. This was gifted to me by, is it Rose Christ? I think it's Rose Christ. But anyways, she had sent me one. I have a mail unboxing, which I will link to in the description box, that she had sent me a couple big books and things, and this was in that box as well. She had seen the Queen of Swords and thought of me, which was so sweet, and got one for herself and for me, which was so exciting. I didn't know that this was coming, and I had never even heard of this tarot deck. This is how it came, except for I've already opened this up. It came with this really cool kind of like postcard by the Illusori team. So we have this, and it's very kind of almost a vinyl-y feel. We can see this kind of a magical kind of knightly woman here. Can kind of see the sword in the background. Very cool. It was tied with a red ribbon, but I already took it off. And then it was inside this packaging, and then this was tied up with a red ribbon. It was quite fancy. And it came with, let's see, a business card. So the art and illustrations are by, I will let you pronounce that, because I will slaughter it. So that's who that's by, and it's by the Illusori team. There's another sticker of the lotus, like we see on the box itself. I'm a very big fan of lotuses. So that is there. Which was inside this nice little kind of shiny purple envelope. Very nicely packaged, I will say. And then this little 24 karat gold sticker, an electromagnetic wave filter. So, I don't know what you're supposed to do with that, but it will stop electromagnetic waves or filter them from my brain, perhaps. So those things were in there. I'm going to move that out of the way. And then we have the wonderful box itself. Now, still, I will say, not having purchased this myself, at this point in the unboxing, I still had no clue what deck we were looking at. And so here we can see this kind of G here. We have tarot, some cool symbols, but it's just tarot. Like, we have symbols along the side, which are, you know, obviously pentacles there, wands. There's some different symbols for the elements. But at this point, I had no clue what deck is this. It's a nice size to the deck. See, I'm always doing this to myself because I don't have, right now, I don't have a standard deck on my table. I usually like to use a Llewellyn's kind of just a standard. Most people kind of know the size of a Llewellyn, so I feel like it's a good one to use. So it's a nice size. It is just slightly taller than a Llewellyn, but it is just slightly taller. But it's a nice cardstock feel to it. It's the same width, so it's a really nice. I really like the cardstock a lot, although I haven't shuffled it yet, so we'll get to the shuffle test later. And so the backings are this kind of cubist feel to them. It's a matte. There's a little bit of sheen to it, but there is a light directly above here. So there's a slight sheen, but it's really kind of a nice matte, which is a satiny sheen. It's not a gloss whatsoever. It's quite a beautiful finish. I'm happy with that. Very happy with that. So let's zoom in, because what are we here? There is no tuck box, or tuck box. It is a tuck box. There is no guidebook whatsoever. Yeah, so I don't know if there is. There's no guidebook here. It didn't come with any kind of guidebook. Now, many of the cards do have keywords on them, but they don't all have keywords on them, and they also, it's kind of random which ones do and don't have keywords on them. So if they all had keywords on them, I think it would be, you know, I guess you don't really need to have a guidebook as well, but so that's quite interesting. I would prefer just at least a little tuck thing of what information about the artist and information about the deck perhaps, and that kind of thing. That is always appealing to me. But, you know, I think that these, from what I've seen, can be read with a basic knowledge of tarot. So here we start with a Fool card. It's got a very 70s feel to it. I mean, look at this. How can you see this and not think about the 70s? I was born in 1968, so I grew up in the 70s and the 80s, and my mom had the hippie long blonde hair and the bell-bottom jeans when I was young, and I had the quilted pants, and very, very 70s. But I will say, even though I'm not a big, huge fan of the 70s, I'm more of an 80s person in that way. It's a 70s esoteric feel to it. It's not a 70s disco vibe to the psychedelic degree of obnoxiousness. So anyways, I've never even heard of this deck before. I would never have purchased this deck. I will put the link to the shop on Etsy. It is a self-published deck, so it is, shoot. I didn't purchase this, so it's rude to say the pricing, and I'm actually not entirely sure, but I want to say that's in the $50 price range for this deck. I read on other reviews, like Ethany's review on her blog, that there's a limited number of these that were printed, but I don't know for sure. So, that, I guess you'll have to check that out, because again, I didn't fully research this. It wasn't a deck that I purchased. It was a gift to myself from the lovely Miss Rosechrist. So, all that being said, I quite enjoy this deck. I am not going to lie. I think it's quite enjoyable. It is not... I feel like there's meat here. I feel like we're kind of stepping a little bit sideways from tarot, traditional tarot, and kind of peeking at it from the side, which I love. I feel like there's a little bit of a different vibe going on here, and things that we can glean from another layer of tarot, of another peeling off of the layer, that I think is wonderful. So I especially see this in this Fool card, where we have all these masks, and then we have at the center is a question mark. Who is this Fool going to become? Who are you going to become if you go down the road on this journey? I can't speak. If you take this journey through the tarot cards, who are you going to become? I quite love that. Here we have the Magician. We have the keyword existence. So he's bringing into existence from the energy of without in the kind of non-physical realm. He's using his power and pulling it into existence. So that's quite lovely. Here we have the High Priestess, inner voice. We have almost this... she's got her hands over her head, and she's got her eyes closed, and she's thinking within. She's gone within. I love all this weird energy that we have going around. We have this, very almost like an eye. If you turn this sideways, you can see an eye there. So we have that literal kind of third eye here, and then maybe the crown chakra eye. I'm not great at that kind of stuff, but I definitely see an eye when I turn it sideways. And so I love that sort of going within, and then it's almost like the eye almost opens up and says, okay, I have come forth with knowledge from the inner depths. I love this. Again, some of the stuff, I was like, I don't even know exactly what's going on, but I love it anyway. So this is the Empress. It's about creativity. I have that feeling like these are the chakras. Again, it's not. Let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So there's not even 7. But I do get that sense of the chakras. I also get the sense of the seed, and then the budding, and then the bloomings of the Empress. So I just think it's wonderful, even though I don't entirely know what is this person thinking about when they made the deck. Especially with this. So in the scepter of the Emperor, we have, this kind of just seeing the scepter here, and we can see within here this ordered world with the sun and the moon and the lotus flower. So it's quite interesting because it's almost like, and even here, this is all very well ordered, right? Because we have a lot of chaos, even with these images, the magician, a swirling 70s kind of thing. And then we have this very ordered card for the Emperor. So I think that actually works quite well. Here we have the Hierophant. Again, this is that idea of teaching, institutionalized. We can think you kind of have this tradition. We have the wings that are going on here. I'm not entirely sure about the whole wings thing. We have the hands that are, kind of folded, which gives us sort of an Eastern religion kind of feel to it. We have definitely above the head chakra kind of here with the lotus. We definitely see the lotus of the sticker repeated throughout. Do we have one in all of the cards? Let's see. I don't see a lotus in the Fool card or the Magician. Nope. Okay. I didn't know if that symbol was one that we were going to see in all of the cards, but it doesn't look to be so. So that one's interesting to me. I would have to sit with this. I mean, I understand what the Hierophant means, so I can get that out of here. But in terms of the images, if we're thinking about tradition and structure and kind of learning from somebody. I mean, this could certainly be a guru that you're going to learn from, but I'm not entirely sure what the image says of the Hierophant or says new about the Hierophant. But again, it's not like I couldn't read with it. Here we have the Lovers. I love the entwined hands. We have the heart here. We have the male and the female energy that's going on. And we have the word choice here. So I think that this works really well. We have the two, and then instead of the angel, we have almost like this sacred sigil that's going on up here. Here we have the Chariot, which I think is quite interesting because, again, very in control. The eyes are closed. We have that sense of using of willpower. We have the Om symbol here, and we have these two fists kind of coming together and activating that energy. So you don't see movement, but we feel movement with these arrows that are going around it and the hands that are coming forward. We have opposing forces that are coming together, and bam, then they're moving off forward and the energy is going forward. So I do think that that works quite well. I love the Strength card. Here we have a lion, and it almost works better from this position, but we can actually see a lion's here, and it is very gently, and she is very peaceably has her head in the lion's mouth versus a woman kind of putting the mouth open of the lion. We have the woman who is trusting and has made such a connection with it that she can put her head in the mouth of the lion that is her inner self, which I think has got some beautiful connotations there. And we do have, when it's laid this way, we do have the infinity sign there above her head. I think it's lovely. I love it. And I love this Hermit. This is, you can kind of get that outline of the Buddha or a monk of some type in meditation. I would certainly think of it as a somebody who is going off to find enlightenment that you see with the Hermit, and it is the search. So many things are coming at, but there is this bubble here of calm, and I think that's wonderful. Here we have the Wheel of Fortune. I don't know what these symbols are. There are symbols here. I don't know. Bart is our resident symbol person, so we'll have to see what he says about that. But there are a couple symbols here. I don't know if these necessarily are symbols, but I feel like these are symbols. That seems to be a Hebrew You know, probably possibly a Kabbalah symbol, but I have not added to my little white book yet Kabbalah symbols. I haven't quite gotten to that part yet, so we'll see what Bart has to say. We do have the arrows going this way and the arrows going that way, and we have wheel upon wheel, so we definitely have that sense of movement and change and that kind of things being constantly in flux that I think works wonderfully. Here we have the Justice card and we have balance. We don't have any traditional imagery of, we have sort of the shoulders. We're looking almost down. So it's like her face is looking up at us and these are the tops of her shoulders. And it's almost like she's balanced on something, like whether she is a tightrope walker. That's kind of the image I'm getting here. Of course, that's just really what's coming to my own head. There's nothing that says that about this. Because other than that, there's not a lot. We do have the scales. Actually, I'm wrong. Worked into this kind of headpiece over her head and onto her forehead, we have the scales. So the scales of balance are there. We also have another eye when we turn it sideways, and the eyes are closed, but that third eye is open. So I think that those are wonderful images of kind of getting to the truth of things and balance. Here we have the Hanged Man, who is quite cocooned up and almost has, this reminds me of the Fifth Element movie, which I love, but the opera singer with the big things coming off the side of her head. This is a keyword of new vision, and I really love this though. She's hanging, she's so serene. Again, we have activation of the third eye here, getting new sight, new perception. We have the rainbow, like all of the chakras perhaps that are in balance and in tune. I think is quite beautiful. Here we have the Death card. Again, this is clearly a Hebrew letter, but we have the idea of transformation. We almost get the idea of a skull here, but it's like made out of plants. So we have almost where the teeth are here and the eye sockets are here, but there are roses. And so we do get the sense of transformation, that while we're talking about death, it's not that life is completely over. It's just transforming into something new out of this card. I love this, and truthfully I don't entirely know why. This is temperance, and the key word that is used is art, which I think is interesting because I don't really think, you know, temperance is generally about that kind of alchemy of the blending of masculine and feminine energies. There is definitely the idea of you know, she's walking a tightrope, but we then have these sort of wings going off her feet that gives you the idea of like Hermes and the messenger kind of thing. We do have bubbles going on here that, you know, maybe tight walk between earth and water. So it's quite interesting to me. Now, I was looking to make sure, but I don't really see the word art. I mean, there is an art form in blending the two elements together, obviously, but in terms of art itself, I think that's an interesting word to use for temperance when we tend to be, you know, again, reconciling contrasting elements and bringing them into harmony would be the key you know, idea of temperance. And something about this works for me, because when I see, the first time I saw this card and when it came up just now again, I like the card. It resonates with me on some level, and I'm not entirely sure why. So it's one of those that I'm going to have to sit with. If anybody out there has any ideas of what this might mean to you and how that would relate to temperance, I would really love to hear that, because I do like this card. I'm just not entirely sure why. Here we have the Devil. I love this. Look at the face here. We have her blindfolded. Again, we have Kabbalah. Well, I guess I don't have enough understanding of the Kabbalah, but those seem to be Hebrew letters, so if somebody else wants to put that in, this is why at a deck like this, I would like a guidebook, even if it's just simple with keywords and just touching on key meanings. I would like to know that, because that's just how I am. If there's something specific like that, I would like to know that. So here we have death, so let's take a look. Yeah. I just don't know enough about the Tree of Life to even attempt to do that. I just will say that I recognize those as being, some of those as looking like they are Jewish symbols that I've seen on like Kabbalah kind of things. Oh, talk about needing to chop up. I'm going to stop with trying to figure out symbols and just enjoy the deck. I quite like this. We have that sort of breaking through, and and we do have a crumbling, but it is leading to motion, right? It's leading to change. It's leading to something being accomplished. Things that have been perhaps gotten overly rigid, things that have gotten out of balance. We're kind of cracking through that energy, and so we have break, but we don't get the sense that it's breaking never to be able to go forward, that we're going to get some forward motion out of this once the rubble falls. So I do quite think that's interesting there. Here we have the star with another Hebrew symbol, which I am not going to try to look at. We have hope as the meaning, which I think works really well, and we clearly have a star. It's, again, very psychedelic, very 70s, but I actually quite like it. The sun is innocence, which is quite interesting here. I mean, I get almost a labyrinthy, mazy feel here. I'm not personally seeing innocence, I guess, in this particular image, but it is quite abstract. Whereas a lot of them I can kind of get the feel for what's going on, other than perhaps the Hierophant, although even that I can work with because of that kind of sense of the mystic, so to speak. This one I'm not entirely picking up on how this says innocence outside of the word. Because if I took the word away, would I know that this is trying to convey innocence? Not really. But it's just purely the sun image. I mean, I get sun energy from this, and I could certainly read with it. Here we have the moon as past lives. I find that to be very interesting. I love that we have the cycles of the moon here. Again, we have some Hebrew words going on. The two faces that are there are quite interesting. The two ways of seeing, we're kind of seeing in shadow and in light, which is kind of interesting. I do like, again, the idea of kind of digging through the past lives. What are the things that we need to reconcile, or almost like the shadow work kind of thing? That's interesting to me. Resurrection is almost through a heart. This right here makes me think of a human heart, and we have the butterfly that's coming out of it. Certainly I get the sense of new life, rebirth, that kind of thing coming out of the cocoon. I do like that. Here we have the world, which is that sense of completion. I like the mandala look. I like the sense, again, of the eye that we have here that kind of relates back to we have a lot of this kind of Egyptian eye feel showing up. There is a sense of completion there, about things coming together. It works for me. It is very, again, a very abstract-y, and it does a bit have, I think you would have to understand the meanings of the particular card, but I still quite like it. It's one of those things where I'm not entirely sure why I like the deck or like some of the cards, but I do at some level. It does say something new to me, and that's a good thing. That's an interesting thing, especially when you just got a deck out of nowhere, you weren't expecting it, nor did you ever look it up, and so to be able to just see the world through the eyes of this artist for a minute, I think is quite interesting. So now let's take a look at the aces, because that is always telling for me. So here we have swords, which have a consciousness above it, and we do have a symbol that we saw on the box, so that must be the symbol for swords. And then we have the wands, which we have the wand symbol on the side of the box. We have the pentacles, which we saw again on the box. And lastly, we have the cups, which has what's interesting, and this I could see being kind of strange to some people who need things to be precise, and it's even a little bit weird to me. We have the gift, we have the source, we have consciousness, and then for pentacles we don't have anything. So there's not a uniformity there that can be a little bit slightly off-putting, you know, just being honest. But here we have the symbol that is for cups. Now, does this carry throughout the cards? It seems as if it does. So that's also interesting then if we go back to say the Magician. No, I don't see. I'm just seeing if we saw any of those symbols, so to speak, within the major arcana, but I'm not. Just seeing if there's any correlations or tie-ins that I wanted to pick up on, but I don't see that there. So those are what we have for the things. Quite beautiful, quite, you know, quite powerful. I would just like a guidebook. I think this deck quite deviates from the norm, and so I would have liked to have a guidebook of some kind. But let's start with the swords because that's my suit. Here we have the ace. I do like the aces. I think they're quite bold, and I do quite like them, other than I think that needs to have a label if the other three are going to have a label. But that's just my swords of wanting things logical to be in mind. Here we have the Two of Swords, decision. I think that works really well. We have what seems to be maybe a Gemini symbol here. We do again have that ace symbol that is here in the card as well. Here we have contrast for the Three of Swords, which I think is an interesting word to choose for. Again, we have the sword here, so we have like the three swords, almost like of them like arrowheads. We have the heart that is inside of the cage, so we get that it's there. You have to look close. We even have feathers, so it's almost like this has been caged. It's like a flying heart, you know, tattoo flying heart that's been caged. So that's interesting. The word contrast, though, in terms of connection with the Three of Swords, is interesting, and another one of those that I saw, and I thought, again, I like the imagery here. I think that it really works once you start to break it down, but what is the contrast here? What are we contrasting? That I'm not sure of. If anybody has a supposition, I'd love to hear it. Here we have the Four of Swords, which is interesting because to me this looks a little bit more like the Eight of Swords. I feel like she's blinded. I feel like she's bound. So that's interesting. I'll be interested to see what the Eight of Swords look like. But postponement is a good, I can see that because we do have the four, arrowheads there. And we do have that sense of, okay, we're stepping away and going and resting, but this isn't the end. We're only postponing it. We've got to go back. So I do like that connotation there. Five of Swords, we have defeat. We have the ears here. So you have the mouth and we have it going into the ears because this is about the mind. This is about communication. So this is about thought. We do have some astrological signs that are going on here as well as the 5 arrowheads to denote it. So it seems that they do use these as the pip part. That can be kind of disagreement too that's going on, or an argument. Here we have the Six of Swords as discovery. This is quite interesting because we do have a sense of water and movement forward, but it's a very powerful movement forward. It's more like a crashing in, and we've got this banging between this rainbow here and kind of almost like here it's broke through the rainbow, right? Look, so you can see the pieces that are here where it's kind of pushed through that and it's kind of moving towards a new horizon. Interesting. We have a question mark, so it's quite interesting. It's like intriguing, but I'm not entirely sure always what's happening. Here we have the Sevens of Swords as a trick. I think of it more as a risky thing. I don't think of it as a trick. But you can certainly, I think you could work with that idea. We have the almost looking like the faces of drama, but in terms of how they work with this deck and what look for this deck, with the smiley face and the serious face. there has been a bait and switch or some sort that's gone on, but it's of course always that question of why. Why has that happened? What have we stolen, and why have we stolen? What is the intent? Was it worth the risk? Here we have the barriers of the Eight of Swords. So all of the Eight of Swords are in here and they are restrained. Is there going to be a way out? I personally feel like this one would have made a better Eight of Swords. But, you know, I didn't make the deck, so that's okay. What do I know? I love the Nine of Swords. The energy feels very a Nine of Swords. So I don't think of the Nine of Swords so much about sorrow as anxiety and letting things well up. The image to me speaks of the Nine of Swords. I don't, again, think of it so much in sorrow. That's more a word that I would have thought of on the Three of Swords, in the swords. And then the Ten of Swords, I do like the lightning strike. It's kind of broke through. We get that sense of ending. Something is over. Something has been killed, like we normally see the Ten of Swords. A ruin, again, is interesting word choices. I really would have liked, I'm going to say this 20 times, I would have liked a guidebook, because I feel like why? I want to know why. I want to think about why this person has chosen these things. I don't think of the Page of Swords as conflict. I don't think of the court cards as conflicting. We have fighting, conflict. Now we do have intelligence, which is beautiful for the Queen of Swords, which is what made her think of me, and I quite love that. I love this almost like atom kind of energy between her hands. And then control of the King, I quite like that. I guess I don't really think about fighting and conflict for the court cards, but I do like these keywords. So there we go. Okay, let's take a look at the wand. I do like the idea of source. It's that source energy for creativity and for passion and for transformation. So I do like that. Two of Wands, possibilities. That I think is beautiful. We have the Three of Wands for virtue. We kind of have that moving off. Again, we do have the pips in the symbols. The Four of Wands we have as completing, and we have the hands being held for the Four of Wands. So that's quite interesting there. Yeah, it's that celebration. We can almost see the energy of celebrating. It's time to, you know, hold hands and sing and have a wonderful time. Five of Wands we have as strife. I know I have to speed it up, but we're not going to get through this. The Six of Wands as victory. The Seven of Wands as valor. It's about bravery, you know, competition, being strong in battle. Swiftness with the Eight of Wands. Strength with the Nine of Wands. I quite like that. We need that strength for that final push. Ten of Wands, oppression. That's a beautiful card, very powerful. Although I do really like to see some movement, that the person is oppressed and weighted down but is still moving forward. But I do like her face. Capabilities for the Page of Wands. Intensity for the Knights of Wands. The Queen of Wands, we don't get a keyword, but she's gorgeous. And then I love this creator of the King of Wands with this lion's, almost a man-lion image. So I quite like that. I like the court cards of the Wands better because I just don't see that negative connotation with the swords. Here we have the Pentacles. Again, I wish it had a keyword since the other ones do, but that's okay. Two of Pentacles have changes. Now this is, I think, more along needing to change because we're juggling too much. So that's interesting. And very watery feeling in the next couple cards. Here we have the Three of Pentacles for work, which works. Four of Pentacles, miser. That is a traditional, obviously a traditional understanding of the card. I don't always read the Four of Pentacles as the miser. So that kind of locks me into having to explain why I wouldn't use this. But I probably wouldn't use this deck for clients anyway, so I don't think that's going to matter as much. Five of Pentacles for worry. Six of Pentacles, success. Seven of Pentacles, patience. I quite like that. Eight of Pentacles, Prudence, which makes me just think of the song from the Beatles song from the movie Across the Universe. Nine of Pentacles, Gain. I like the Superman kind of feel that's there, but it's been put together. You know, it's carefully built. The Ten of Pentacles for wealth. The Page is adventure, which again, I don't think of the Page, I guess, of Pentacles so much as adventure, but I do like it. Meditation, I do like that. Flowering for the Queen, I think it's a beautiful Queen. The Queens are quite gorgeous. And abundance, I love the bull's head for the King of Pentacles. And then lastly, we have the Cup suit. We have love for the Two of Cups, which is beautiful. Three of Cups of celebration, and we've got even the three mouths there. The Four of Cups turning in. So we have the Four of Cups over here, but we do have that look of boredom and dissatisfaction. Disappointment in the Five of Cups. Dream in the Six of Cups. Projection in the Seven of Cups, you know, where we would normally see the different things in the cups. I love this letting go in the Eight of Cups, exchanging the heart. Happiness in the Nine of Cups. Harmony is gorgeous in the Ten of Cups. And then we have understanding for the Page. Trust for the Knight. I love that. Receptivity for the Queen. I love. And healing for the King of Cups, I love. So really in the court cards, it's just for me not really liking the, and you know, I'm a swords person, but I don't really like the titles for the swords, Page and Knight of Swords, although I feel like I could work my way around it. Again, I don't really know that I'd be using this with clients anyway, so I can kind of ignore whatever I would want to ignore. So there we have all of the cards. Now, they are doing a funky little bendy thing, if you can see that. A funky little bendy thing. Oh, wait, that's because I have them mixed up. So they've got a little bit of a bow to them, so when they were mismatched, you could see that. But that happens, that bow happens with a lot of my deck. So let's pull this out. I don't know. You know, we're going to see about this. Again, there is something about this deck that really resonates with me on one hand. And on the other hand, there's a lot of it that I don't entirely know where they're going with it. So I would, because of that, like to have had a guidebook. Not to repeat myself over and over and over again. But let's go ahead and see how they shuffle. Because they have that bend in them, and it is a pretty nice card stock, it's a little bit difficult to get a bend in it to rifle shuffle. I feel like perhaps with some work it would get a little more. I can already feel it working in a little bit. I think it would just need some work with it, but it's definitely a tight, yeah, I can definitely feel it loosening. I have another deck like that, but I can't remember which one it is. I like the feel of the cards, though. I'm sure somebody's going to say, is this a deck that you would trim because of the white? I actually don't think I would. I think it needs that thin framework perhaps because of the 70s chaos that's going on in there, or busyness and abstract art. I almost feel like it probably needs that to frame it. But I could be wrong. Obviously, there are no spreads that come with this because, here's the zoom out a little bit more. Okay, I'm zoomed out as far as I can. There's not a booklet, so I'm just going to do like a typical large spread just so you can see these. So if we start here in the present, go to the past, go to the future, go to the air, fire, earth, and water. You can see there's lots of reds and yellows. It's very vibrant. We're going to have to shift this down a little bit, but it's all right. Let's see. We'll kind of get it down so we can see as much as we can. So there we would have the Hermit in the past. We have the Search that's moving towards the Ten of Swords, something that needs to end so that we can move forward to the Sun. That certainly works there. We have the sense of hope in the mind and in the intellect and the communication. We have strife of the Five of Wands going on within the fire energy. So we have a wand in a wand. You're not seeing, well, we have wands here, like let's say the swords don't stand out really strongly from in coloration, from anything. Like you really do have to look. You're not going to see, I think, a color variation. We do have, you know, kind of above and below strength and weakness. We have the Five of Swords, that sort of bitter, sweet, that sort of something isn't quite right, a victory that is kind of tinged, or something that doesn't let it go be a full-on victory. So in a shadow position of a weakness, maybe I'm never really being able to accept a victory and always kind of going with it as you know, not just letting it be a full-on victory, but being negative or having negative thoughts about everything that is always tinging the victory that you might have. As strength, we have that idea of transformation. As above, we have transformation, but below the ground isn't quite so stable because we don't have that full-on sense of our own strength and our own ability to win and to win cleanly. So we have that. We have victory here in emotions. Things are going well. There's recognition. There's, you know, relationship-wise and emotion-wise. Things are going well. So, you know, we can see all this, and I could certainly read with this. It's quite beautiful. I probably would not read it with clients because, you know, I don't get all of the keywords yet. I would have to really sit and work with it. But I enjoy having a look at it greatly. I will enjoy certainly having it in my collection. It is certainly going to photograph gorgeously. I'm just not sure that it would become like certainly wouldn't become a main working deck, just because it needs some sitting with, and it needs, in my opinion, a guidebook. So because it doesn't have it, I think you'd really, there's nothing wrong with that, needing to just really set with the card and say, okay, how does the Two of Pentacles, how do we look at that in terms of changes, and really probably doing some journaling with it. And some of them make perfect sense to the Rider-Waite, and then some of them not as much. So I have very mixed feelings about it. I love it. I'm so glad that I have it to look at and to work with and to kind of dig around with and probably pull out for some, you know, just kind of thought-provoking. I think this is a really good deck when you just want to provoke thinking about the cards a little bit differently, because sometimes that's the case. We get in a rut of looking at the cards in all the same way, and we want to shake things up a little bit. I think this would be a really good deck for that kind of thing, for pulling a single card and just setting with that and thinking, okay, how can I see this card in a different way by looking at it kind of from this lens of this particular deck. I think it would be great for that sort of work. So I hope that you enjoyed this. I hope that for the people who are wondering whether they want to purchase it, that this will be helpful to them in figuring that out. And I will, I'm sure, be back with some more reviews shortly. I know that this is all about Lenormand this month, but I am going to try keeping up some regular tarot-y, oracle-y kinds of videos as well. So this has been a look at the Illusori Tarot. And again, links to where you can purchase this will be in the description box.